everyone, and welcome back. If you're new here, hello, welcome. If you're one of my friends watching, welcome back. So I'm coming at you week 1 in my new house. This looks really put together, what's happening behind me, but little do you know, behind you is a stack of boxes. I am about 80% unpacked at this point. One day ago made it 1 week in my new house. I love it. I'm excited. Obviously, it comes with always more than you think it would. It's always a little trickier than you'd think, but all in all, I'm so happy. But if I look haggard, that's why. I just drove across the country and am now officially in the East Coast. And true to East Coast vibes, which is where I was born, where I was raised, I'm an East Coast gal, but what a welcome home. It has been raining for 1 week straight. And I'm not mad about it, because I was just coming from a really dry place, and already I can feel my skin is glowing. My hair, though treated blonde, is healthier. I can just already tell it was such a great move. It was such a good idea. I'm surrounded by family again. My first couple of days here it was like a breath of fresh air. And even though moving is always stressful all around, I'm so happy that we decided to make the jump and make the move, and couldn't be happier. Now, all of that being said, let's talk about the books I read in March and my plans for April, because it's not going well. So I'm not going to be holding up the books, mostly because I just got these on the shelf and I'm not about to pull them all down, reshelve them all. And truth be told, I only read 5 books, so let's talk about it. First, I read Finley, Donovan is Killing It. I read this one really on a whim. I just had heard a lot about it, and I'm so glad I decided to pick it up because it was hilarious. So basically, we're following Finley as she is a single mom, recently divorced. She's not on great terms with the dad who left her, is now with another woman who seemingly is just horrible. And basically what happens is she's sitting in a Panero, which iconic, and she's speaking to her editor about her plans for her next thriller book, and someone overhears her, and essentially they think she's a hit woman, and circumstances considered, she gets hired to kill someone. And it was hilarious. It was so fun. I read this in the throes of moving and packing up the last bits of my home, and I have to say it was such a breath of fresh air. It was just so funny. It felt like it is the perfect book to adapt into a movie because I just had so much fun with it. The dialogue's hilarious, the characters are funny, circumstances are funny. I haven't heard great things about the second one, but I am going to pick it up just to try it, and I did rate that a 3.5 out of 5. And for a mystery, for me, that's quite high. I think the only thing I didn't like about it was the pacing was not great. I felt like it really dragged, maybe in the last 3/4 of it. But the ending did intrigue me. So it was going to be a 3, and it hopped up to that 3.5 right at the end. Next, I read The Paris Apartment. This one was a flop for me. That's the new Lucy Foley. I do own, I don't know, I rearranged my shelves. They're directly behind me. I do own all of Lucy Foley's previous releases. I believe it's The Hunting Party and The Guest List. I enjoyed both of those. I know Lucy Foley for some people really is hit or miss. You're either a fan or you're not. Previously, I was a fan. The Paris Apartment, I rated a 2.5 out of 5. It was the definition of middling for me. I just didn't think it was intriguing. I thought the twist wasn't really a twist. And I am not an Einstein by any means, but I was reading the book as if the twist was part of the story. So when like the reveal happens, it didn't work for me because it didn't feel like a aha moment or a gotcha moment. It just felt like, well, yeah, and what else is there? So basically in the Paris apartment, we're following a young woman as she, basically her life is in turmoil. She is the sibling that is always has trouble. She's always messing up. And she decides to take her brother up on the offer, the long-standing offer of coming to Paris and staying in his apartment. The brother, we meet right at the beginning, he is not so happy about her coming. She's definitely the irresponsible sister and he knows it. He is the beloved sibling. And ultimately, by chapter 2, the brother has gone missing. The sister shows up and is worried, though not as much as I would be, but worried right away when her brother is not answering the door. So, thrilling things ensue, supposedly. But we're going to move on from that one because it wasn't for me. Next, I read The Inheritance Games. I can't remember who wrote that, but it's the big boy on the scene right now. I enjoyed it. I rated it a 3.5 out of 5 stars. That's a good rating for a teen for me. Again, there's some silliness. I think a lot of the characters were almost caricaturish, but it was a fun time. It did what it needed to do because this month I was really just focused on reading what would bring me instant joy. Basically, like when you go through a breakup and you just eat like ice cream. I was looking for my ice cream and book. I didn't find it, so I probably should have stuck to like some high fantasy or nonfiction, but Inheritance Games, it didn't let me down. It was a fun time. I do think manage your expectations when you are an adult reading teen, always. So I had a lot of fun with it, but some friends of mine that read it, they were like, the mystery wasn't great, or the riddles weren't complicated, and it's like, yeah, but it's tailored to an audience that is not of our age, and there are plenty of younger people that come into our stores and they are blown away from the mystery and the thrilling. So I think certainly it is a great teen read, and I had a lot of fun reading it. Basically, we are following this young woman who lives with her sister, and one day she finds out she is now the heiress to a sort of baron of sorts in Texas, and she goes there and the family is not at all welcoming. In fact, they're quite hostile, and there are 3 brothers that were due to inherit, and of course their parents are quite upset. So she's trying to figure out how she became the heiress of this man that she's never met, and of course trying to balance the domestic side of this new family that still lives in this mansion that she inherited. So it was fun. It was interesting. That's about it. Okay, I just realized the last 2. Now we'll talk about it. So first, it's right here. I read Jade Legacy. I rated it 5 out of 5 stars. I absolutely loved it. It was so good. So I've kind of like ad nauseum at this point the last few months, because I think I've read 1, 2, and 3 consecutively for the past few months. But this really is a series that took me by surprise. This series, I had no expectations going in, and it's been such a wild ride. I've had so much fun with it. We're following this family that's one of the 2 major clans of this island of Kikyon, that controls and creates all of the jade that is housed in this island, but also now is beginning to be distributed around the world. You can harness jade to harness super strength and powers of the like. So when you control the jade, basically you control the power of the world. I loved the arc of all the characters. I think Fonda Lee does such a good job of not really portraying, yes, there's an obvious villain, or I should say an antagonist, but nobody's actually good in this story. Everyone does very gray things, and even when their compass is pointed north, just the circumstances of the world they live in, a lot of characters are, I wouldn't say forced, but they're definitely balancing a really fine world of, to survive, you sometimes have to do bad things. And does that necessarily make you a bad person? And I think Fonda Lee did a really great job of walking that fine line with all of the characters. So just when you thought you were going to hate a character, they would turn around and do something, or the effect of what they did would create good, or they would do something good, and out of choosing what we would think is the good thing, a lot of bad happens. So I really enjoyed it. And besides that, it was just a great fantasy world. Fonda Lee created a world that you felt you understood so well. You felt you were living in and breathing in, and you understood the world and the characters and the games and the politics, and it was just a great time. And I will say book one was a little sluggish. I think maybe the first third, it was kind of hard for me to get into. I also didn't know anything going in. So it is heavily political. There's a lot of dialogue about what's going on, but there's a really, really great action scenes as well, and there's great tension. Fonda Lee does tension like no other, because from book one, you know she is not afraid to kill her characters. So know that going in, get attached, but they are gonna go. They're gonna drop like flies. So that was a 5 out of 5. Also, my final read for the month was I read A War of Two Queens by Armentrout. It was her newest release in the From Blood and Ash series. I should just get that tattooed on my ass because I'm an Armentrout stan at this point. I forced everyone around me to read it, and I forced everyone around me to become super fans of this series as well. It's fun. Is it the most highbrow, high fantasy I've ever read? No. But what it does right, I rated this a 5 out of 5. I had so much fun with it. When you're in the throes of such a high stress in your life, like moving across the country, and I have family that's ill, and you know, sometimes you come to a point in your life when everything's just not going right, and you have to say goodbye to some really strong friendships. I was out west for almost 5 years, and I had developed some really beautiful friendships. So I wasn't only just doing the very scary thing of starting over and whittling down my themes, but I was saying goodbye to some strong friendships, some new budding friendships, and that's hard for me to do as well. So when you get a book that can completely turn off the stress side of your brain, and you can just live in it and thrive and enjoy it, and you just, for once, when you're packing or saying goodbye or having another going away party for a different group of friends, for me to have an escape at that point in my life, I now know that this is going to be a series that's going to stick with me. Maybe because of the timing of it all, that's possible, but I love Blood and Ash. I love the whole series. I love Castile, and I love that as each book continues, my understanding and the world we're in is growing. So in this one, we got dual perspective. We got Poppy and Castile, as realistically they're separated for the first time. Armentrout was intertwining aspects of Shadow and the Ember a lot and very well. I will say, if you haven't read Shadow and the Ember before reading War of Two Queens, I would very, very strongly suggest that you do read that one first. But yeah, I loved it. It's book 4 in a series, so I don't want to go too into detail about what it's about. Because I do know I've had a couple of people comment saying they were starting the series and they can't wait, so I don't want to spoil it for them. But just know, in my opinion, it gets better and better. I'm having a great time with the characters. I will say, at first she announced it would only be a quartet. It is now going to be at least 6 books, so I'm very happy with that. It doesn't feel like Armentrout is just lengthening the series for the sake of its success. It feels like it's growing very authentically, and I'm so excited that I discovered it when I did and was able to be there for book 2 release, book 3, and now book 4. I'm so happy that it was available at this time in my life, because it really did help me in what was an otherwise quite difficult time in my life. So I'm so thankful, and of course I rated it 5 stars. I love Castiel, I love Poppy, and we can look forward to book 2 in the Shadow and the Ember series coming out in October, and I will keep pre-ordering them, I will keep picking them up, and probably keep fangirl reviewing them, to be honest. I wanted to do a read-along for book 4, but my life was just going up in flames. Not in a bad way. It was all good changes. And like I said, I'm so happy I made the decision. But that would not have been a vlog anyone wanted to see. So very happy. Started the month a little bit worse for the wear for my reading, but it finished so strong. I really can't complain. Jade Legacy and War of Two Queens are probably going to be on my top 5. I will say they're my top 2 of reading thus far this year, and we're in the midst of April, so pretty happy with that. But that's all for now. I'll be uploading a little more consistently now that I am officially moved in. Expect that it will be a little more inconsistent as I continue to unpack, but I'm back, baby, and I'm on the East Coast and happy and thriving here. So that's all I read for the month of March, and I will see you guys in my next video.